Hi everyone, in this video I'd like to talk about the instantaneous rate of change for a function that's going to involve a product rule, and we've got some trig functions in here. So our function is d equals 3 times sine of 196t times cosine of 196t, and they give us that equation in terms of time, which is in seconds, and they want us to find the instantaneous rate of change at time equals 3 microseconds. Okay, so a couple of things to do here. First of all, this function is written in such a confusing way, I think it's really hard to dig in here with the derivative. So I'm going to rewrite this with the multiplication symbol in there so it's really clear where our product is. And I'm also going to put some parentheses around the angle that we're taking sine and cosine of. So I think that will be a good first step. So the first thing I'm going to do is write d equals 3 times sine parentheses 196t, so that's my angle that I'm taking sine of, times, I know I made that a bit obvious, but I really want to keep track of my product rule here, cosine of 196t. All right, so I've got two pieces here. There's certainly a constant hanging out in front, but those don't bother us too much when we're doing derivatives. But I've got the product, and I've got basically two factors I need to keep track of. And when you do the product rule, let's go back over here and just recall what our product rule is. Suppose I have a function y equals u times v, the derivative dy dx, or y prime, that notation is equivalent, we use them interchangeably. The derivative of y is the derivative of first, which is u prime, times the regular second, plus the derivative of the second, which is v prime, times the regular first. So that's what I need to keep in mind when I do my derivative over here. So let's do that. The derivative, so I'm going to call this d prime, is equal to 3. That's just a constant hanging out in front. Now I'm going to do u prime. So I'm going to do the derivative of sine of 196t. All right, so the derivative of sine is cosine of 196t. And here comes chain rule. The derivative of the 196t is 196. And I'm putting in my little multiplication symbols there. So that was the derivative of the first, we did that, times the regular second. So the regular second factor there, that's just cosine of 196t. All right, so let me label what we've done so far. This piece here was u prime, and this piece here was v. So far, so good, but we're totally not done. We're only halfway through this derivative. And I'm going to put my big parentheses out in front there because that 3 is being multiplied times everybody. All right, so I did my u prime v, and now I need to do plus v prime u. All right, so now we need to do the derivative of the second factor. Right, so let's hop in here and do that. The derivative of cosine is going to be a negative sine of 196t, chain rule it, so derivative of 196 is going to be 196 times the regular first, 196t. Let's write down just what we did so we keep track of all our pieces here. This was v prime, and this was our regular u. And I'm going to close the parentheses because that big constant 3 is being multiplied times everybody. All right, so let's clean this up. D prime equals 3 times this first term. I've got cosine 196t, I've got another cosine 196t, so it gives me cosine squared, and the 196 is sitting out in front. It's just a constant there, 196 cosine squared 196t. Second term, I've got a negative 196 out in front, sine squared Okay, so we have finished the derivative. That's our instantaneous rate of change as a function of time, but they wanted us to compute this at time equals 3 microseconds. So if I'm working in microseconds, notice that this would be 0.003 seconds, so I do have to be very careful with my units here. So my next task is going to be to substitute 0.003 in for t. And I'm certainly not going to do that by hand. I need to get out technology for that. And one thing to be very careful of when you're working with technology is to check whether you are in radians or degrees. And in this problem, we are in radians. So I'm going to hop over to Wolfram Alpha. Okay, so I've started typing this in. I've got 3 out in front, parentheses, 196 cosine squared of 196 times a 0.003. And that closes the parenthesis for the cosine squared. That closes the parenthesis around what I'm taking the cosine squared of, my angle essentially. Then minus 196 sine squared, open the parenthesis for the angle or the argument, 196 times 0.003, close parenthesis for the angle, and then close parenthesis for everything that the 3 was multiplying by. And I'm going to hit enter. And it looks like we've got an answer, but we've got to be very careful about those units. Notice that Wolfram Alpha was working in degrees, and then it says if we want to do radians, I need to click on radians. All right, and so if I'm rounding this answer to the nearest whole number, this would be 226. So I can come back over here and give this as 226, and we'd be looking at meters per second or whatever the units were there, feet per second. I'll leave the units off because I forgot what the original problem was, but that gives you the sense of what we need to do.